And welcome back to another check-in and another complete review of fasting. Hey, this is what we do here in the show. This is what we do on the channel. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And you are catching us as we are doing our review of fasting, a complete review, how to prepare for a fast, how to get through a fast, and of course, how to end a fast. And I'm so glad that you're here. Whatever platform you're joining us from, whether that's LinkedIn or Twitch or Facebook, and of course here on YouTube, we're glad that you are here. And if you are joining us because you saw our content on one of the other platforms as we are expanding and moving our limitless living idea into the rest of the world and into the rest of the country, we welcome you for being with us and hanging out. Hey, this week has been an amazing week because we've got some things going on in terms of scheduling. We've done our check-in. We ended our Limitless Living Health Action Plan last week and started a new focus this week, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But if you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music to let you know that we're excited and happy that you are here in the space with us. If you do have comments, go ahead and put those in the chat, and if you have questions, go ahead and pop those in the chat, and go ahead and put a Q, and we'll get to those as we get to them and talk, answer those as we move through our conversations with you. I've got some good things that we're going to look at here, as you know how we do. I've got my monitors that we're going to take a look at over in the side here. I've got my Keto Mojo, and I've got my Contour, and then of course down right below me I've got my Dexcom Clarity Report, which we'll look at to see what's been going on over the course of the last little while. I want to encourage you, if you've not yet been to our channel, if you've not been walking along with us as we've moved through our limitless living space, we've got so many things that are going on. And just to point out a few things that's happening right now, we have our 100-day walk to consistency that's happening on the channel. If you've not been there, you want to make sure you get over there. And I'm pulling that up for you right now so you can see what we've been doing as we've been moving through the space. And the idea with the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, if you are following those pillars, you'll see that on the channel we have a component of those things that you can get involved with. Right now here, what you're looking at is our Strength, Strategy, and Mindset series. We are on day, I think it's day 75, 73 or 74. Actually, 74. That's what we're looking at right now, and so we're doing some curl and presses. We're working on dumbbell presses. We're doing some pelvic tilts, as you see me there on the ground. Doing some lateral raises, which is what we're doing right there, and of course we've got the hammer curls, and we're doing some squats. Right, so lots of different things that we're doing there, and then I think where are we? Let's go over here so you can see me do. Let me do some dead bugs. Right. So once again, we have a space for you that you can implement the things that we've been learning. The idea here is that as you are moving through the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, that we're providing a space that allows you to just plug in your schedule, in your calendar, wherever you are, so that you can continue to work with us and continue to move in the direction of making sure that you are being healthy. The other series that we have, which is still ongoing, by the way, so we've not been televising this, but you are also continuing to walk, because a part of the health action plan is that we have the walking, we've got the strength training, we've got, of course, the fasting that we do here on a weekly basis. So I'm going to pull up for you one of our walking episodes, and we did a 100-day walk to consistency back as we. Let me pull that up so you can see. All right, so this is me out walking. Okay, and The MOVE campaign, metabolic optimization via exercise, is a space that says all of the pillars that we have as we're moving through the health action plan are important, and we want you to get in and get on board with that. The fasting that we're doing, of course, we are here as we're doing the complete fasting check-in, but on a weekly basis, we come on and we talk about the things that I'm eating as we get into the space of starting to fast. What's the last meal I eat? What's the first meal that I eat? And if you've not been a part of that, you want to join that community, because it's an amazing place to come to get support and to really get ideas as we are implementing the various aspects of the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. Today, we did a check-in from my office, and actually right in my lobby as I sat and talked to you about what's been going on. And I'm pulling that up for you right now so you can see that as well. And so here we are. This is me doing our check-in earlier today, our pop-up. There you go. Right? As we were talking about where we are and what we're doing. So lots of different things that you have access to, and I want to make sure that you are taking advantage of all of that, because remember, structure, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a little while, structure is very important. Having the information is great, but the systems that you put in place, the systems that you have in place that help you to move in the direction of being successful are the important things. We rise to the level of our systems. Let me say that again. We rise to the level of our systems. And so we want to make sure that the systems that we have in place are of such that they can take us where we need to go. Here is me. This is the check-in that I did as we were getting ready to start the fast. And let's see, here I am. If you've not seen that yet, go ahead and watch that. That is the meal that I had as I was getting ready to go into the fast. Okay, so once again, lots of things on the channel, lots of things that are out there that you can get involved with as we are working to provide those features so that you can plug in. And what we want to do is we want you plugging in, right? Show up the health action plan. The reason it says action is that it gets power when you get involved. It is infused with unlimited potential when you take action. So make sure that you are plugging in and that you're doing all of those things. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my blood sugars are. And right now, as you know, we've had some changes in our schedule. And so I am at this time, as I'm doing this, I am now 56 hours, a little over 56 hours. Well, actually not quite 56 hours into the fast. Let's see, this is 54, about 54 hours into the fast right now. And we're going to take a look to see what's been going on with my blood sugars and what's been going on with my reports. So let's go ahead and hop over. And here is my Freestyle Libre. And this number right here, that's what my blood sugar is right now at this moment. It's 81. If you look down at our graph, you'll see that for the middle part of the day, my blood sugar was below 70, which is the red part. Prior to that, we were straddling right around 100. And then you see a break in the graph. I had to change, or my sensor ended, and I had to change it. And so you'll see that break there, and then the white line that comes up after it. Okay, and if I go over to my Dexcom, once again, here is it looks like our sensor is going to expire in about 24 hours. So here's the blood sugar, right there, 82, and then scrolling down, there is the blood sugar right there. That's the graph, and what I like about this is I can actually put my finger over that. And you can see what my blood sugars have been running. So 80s, so 100s, 80s, 90s, there's the 80s, and then coming into the morning in the 100s, 90s. And this is now, well, let's go up here. So once again, this is my toothpaste effect right in here, right? So come in with the 80s and 90s, and then right about 6 o'clock we start to see it climbing up, and let's see how high it gets. So we got up to about 114, I think was the highest that I saw. Yeah, about 115, and then starts climbing back down, and we're in the 80s and 90s up to where we are right now. Okay. And let's go ahead and let's take a look to see what my Keto Mojo and my contour say. For this, let me grab my container. We'll need a strip for the contour. We'll need a brown strip blue strip for ketones, brown strip for blood sugar. That's for the Keto Mojo. And then, let's see, hopefully I have a lancet. There it is. I have a lancet in here. All right, so what you use to get our finger stick. And so let's get back over here. And I'm going to get a strip out for the contour. Get that. Here we are. And get that into the monitor. Actually, let me go here so you can see that. And we're going to open up. This is the glucose strip for the Keto Mojo. Get that in. And this is the ketone strip for the Keto Mojo. And I always try to open those both at the same time because I invariably have trouble with this one. This is the ketone. I'm not sure why that is. All right, so let's go ahead and then open up. This is our Lancet. And as you see, I don't usually use the Lansing device. I just pull that off and I find a finger and get a poke there. And hopefully that gives me a good enough drop of blood. There we are. Yeah, I might need a brisker drop. There we go. Get that started. And what do you think my ketones are going to be, by the way? So we don't know yet what they are. So here is what the contour says, and here is what the here's what the contour says, and here's what the Keto Mojo says. So 73, 71, and right there you'll see that is what the Dexcom is saying right now. So let me go ahead and take this strip out, and let's get the strip in for ketones. So 54 hours of fasting. What do you think my ketones are? Let's go ahead and drop this in here and get that one started. Okay, there we are. And so drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, please. And we are 1.4 for our ketones right now. And while I have that on the screen, let's go ahead and hop over the Keto Mojo. And so we can pull that information in. Let's go ahead and get that synced. Hopefully we can. Okay, so syncing in progress. All right, and so 73 with 1.4 with a glucose management indicator of 2.8. So let me go ahead and I'm going to hop over to this this view. Okay, so the blood sugar or the number that you're seeing right here, the 2.8, is what's called the glucoketo index or glucose keto index, and it is a ratio of the blood sugar, which is down here, and the ketones. The only thing that if you're doing that calculation, you'll say, wait a minute, that is not, if I divide 73 by 1.4, that's not what I get. I actually get a different number. Well, the reason that's the case is that you have to do a conversion. So let me go ahead and pull up my calculator. All right, and so actually let me get the blood. It was let's see, what was it? It was 73 and 1.4. So let's go ahead and do that. And so if I take 73 and I have to convert that to international units, I actually divide that by 18, and that gives me this. And if I divide that by 1.4, then I'll get the 2.8 that I got here. Okay, so that's how that number occurs. So when we talk about ketones, and you'll see that my ketones right here are 1.4. Ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. So right now I'm in the nutritional ketosis. Nutritional ketosis range. I'm trying to get that word. And let's go ahead and pull up our graph. And you see there, if you look at the graph, here is, that is glucose. And here is my ketones down here, right, was 0.2. And let's see, did it sync? All right, come on. I'm going to have to do that again because that graph did not look like the one I was expecting. Okay, let's get this over, pull it in. Let's see, pull out the strip is what it's telling me. Make sure the device is on. Let's go ahead and get that back on. And all right, so it's finished, sync is completed. All right, and let's see what we have. 88. Okay, there we go. Okay, I was like, why is that not showing up the way I expected? There we go. All right, so here we are. And so when we did our check-in earlier this week, remember our blood sugar was 88 and ketones 0.2, so essentially in the normal range. And now that I fasted, notice that the blood sugar goes down from the 88, it goes down to 73, but the ketones go from the 0.2 up to 1.4. So when blood sugars are higher, then the body has to produce insulin. And as the insulin comes up, then ketones go away. Remember, insulin and ketones can't be in the same space. And so that's why you see there is a, when the blood sugars go down, the insulin drops and then the ketones go up as a result of that. So that's what you're seeing there. Let's go ahead and let's go over and we're going to take a look at my monitor report through the Dexcom Clarity. And so here I am, this is the 14-day view, and my blood sugar, my average blood sugar is 114. My glucose management indicator is 6.0. This is a calculated number, but if I got an A1C now, based on these numbers, I would expect it to approximate that. Now, I can't say it's an A1C because it's a calculated number, but it is usually pretty close to that. My time in target is 99%, so 99% of the time I'm in the range, with the range being here at 70 to 180. One point that I usually want to make here is that the 70 to 180 that you see on your monitor when you're setting up your CGM, when you're looking at, even when you're doing other monitors, the 70 to 180 is a safety feature. It is, we had to pick a range that says, hey, we don't want blood sugars lower than this, because lower than 70 is low blood sugar, by the way. That's hypoglycemia. But on the upper side, we had to pick something. We said, hey, these are the numbers. These are, and there are specific reasons why we pick 180, but that is where the range is. That doesn't mean that that's where we want your blood sugar to be. In fact, when I talk to patients and clients, I tell them that I want their average blood sugar to be between 100 and 120, right? So that is the number that I want you guys to shoot for, 100 to 120. Now, talk to your healthcare provider. They may give you different parameters depending on where you are, but the body is actually looking for numbers that are even better than that 100 to 120, because a normal blood sugar for a non-diabetic person is 70 to 99. 100 to 125 is considered to be pre-diabetic, and then 126 and above is considered to be diabetic. Okay, so when you're looking at those numbers, I want you to make sure you're keeping that in mind. If I look at my 90-day average, because just now we looked at the 14-day average, my 90-day average shows that my average blood sugar is 116 with a glucose management indicator of 6.1, so just a little bit higher than it was before. And so that means on average, my blood sugars have been 2 milligrams per deciliter, that's the units, higher over the, let me say it the other way. So my blood sugars have been 2 milligrams per deciliter better over the last 2 weeks compared to what it was over the last 90 days, right? So the last 2 weeks we've been better. Once again, my time in range is 98 and my target is 70 to 180. if I look at the actual numbers for the graphs, here we are right here at 54, 56 hours. And if I start going backwards, you'll see that for most of that time, we've been in the 80s. Well, let's go back. So here we dropped down to 70s a few times. And 80s, low to mid 80s. There was a 79. And here's our 90s, 100s. So I want you to look at the time. So right here, so we came into the morning with the 90s. And then right about 6 o'clock when I got up and started brushing my teeth and getting ready for the day, you start to see that blood sugar rise. And we got up, I think we said we got up to as high as 115. There it is, okay? Now, going backwards, so here is the day prior to that. So at this point, we're fasting 24 to 36 hours. And so once again, there is the glucose or the toothpaste effect. And you see some fluctuations there, low 90s, 100s. And then going backwards to time 0. So we started fasting on Monday. And we started fasting on Monday right in this area right here. So blood sugar 106, 105, 100. So I ate, and go back and see what I ate for my last meal prior to the fast. And then going forward now, from that point, you'll see that the blood sugars, I think we spiked out, it was going 121, here's 120, 117, 125. So we're up about 25 points at the max going into the evening. And then now to the numbers that we saw just a little while ago. And so one of the points I want to make here is, and we'll make this again when we are reviewing the fasting, is that you want that your blood sugars should not have significant spiking after the meal that you ate, right? When you're ending your eating window, the meal that you're eating should be of such that it doesn't cause major spikes in your blood sugar. Because remember, if you do that, if you have those big spikes, then your blood sugars are forcing your body to produce insulin, and insulin delays the progression into ketosis. And then of course these are the numbers that we just saw. Awesome. So that's really an important point, and we'll make that again here as we go through the fasting, because I want you to understand that the things that we do when we're not in the fast, right, as we're getting into the fast, those things are tremendously important in what goes on in the fast. If we do a good job there, then we will find that we get into the fast, complete the fast, get through the fast in a way that helps set us up for success as we move further into our metabolic improvement. Okay? All right. So that's with that. Now I do want to go ahead and do a check-in. And the reason I want to do a check-in is that the place where people will have their most challenge, their biggest challenge, is in some of these areas. So these are actually some of the components of our domains of health when we talk about our health, when we talk about metabolism and talk about the things that we do to improve metabolism. If you remember, we did a show or series actually where we walked through the 8 domains of health. And if you've not seen that, go back and make sure you watch that, because that was a very important discussion as we move through that series. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, those are the 3 places that I do a check-in. Whenever you are in the process of improving, trying to make changes in your life, in your health, wherever, you want to make sure that you are looking at parameters that let you know whether you're getting benefit, whether there is anything that you need to tweak, anything you need to improve. And here, when I do my check-in, it is with the intention of, 1, letting you know what's going on with me as I move through the fast, and 2, for me to check in with myself to say, okay, how am I doing in these different areas? Because if I'm doing a check-in, I can find things that maybe need to be tweaked, And when I tweak them, I get improvement and I get a better fast. For example, and we'll come back here in a minute to go through the list. For example, a couple of weeks ago when I did my check-in, I told you that I was having a headache. And as I was going through my list of, okay, where am I having these challenges, I realized that I had not been drinking enough fluids. And so I started drinking, I tweaked, and it got better. And so that is one of those places where we want to make sure that you're following through and making sure that you're looking at the different areas. So physically, right now I'm feeling rested. I over the last several days have been doing a good job because there's, like I mentioned, there's some scheduling. I don't want to say challenges, some scheduling changes that are going on with me and the family. And so I've had to switch and pivot and do some different things. As a result, I realized that I needed to get rest this week. If no other week, I needed to get some rest this week, because if I didn't get rest, I would not be able to do the things I'm doing in terms of my health, in terms of working with the family, seeing patients, being here in this space with you. And so I was very intentional this week about making sure I got good rest. Why is that important? Because as I'm going through the fast, and I'm 55 hours now into this fast, my body has changed from burning carbs, glycogen, and is now burning fat, as you saw with the ketones that were there, 1.4. If I were not well rested, when it made that switch, I would feel that more profoundly, and I would feel it kind of like oh man, I'm feeling so weak and tired. But because I've rested, I don't feel it. It changed, it pivoted, my body changed, and all the hormones are changing, but I don't feel that as profoundly. That's number one. Number two, hydration, right? I'm doing a good job of hydration. If I didn't do that, then that would also show up as lightheadedness, sweaty, dizzy, all those other things. And then mental. I'm excited because, hey, I'm hanging out with the family, y'all. It's summertime. We're doing some things. We got some fascinating things happening with our family and friends. And, of course, here we see a lot of benefit and a lot of success and a lot of just amazing advancement in our community. People who are getting off medications, who are having blood sugars that they never thought they would see again, or things that they're having for a long time. They've been struggling with various personal things in terms of food, and now they are getting success as they're moving through that space. So that part for me is exciting. It pumps me up. I'm not feeling sluggish, lightheaded, dizzy from the activity in terms of physical, and I am feeling clear because when I'm rested, I also feel better in terms of my mentation. And then emotionally, just excited. I mean, I don't even have another word for that. Just excited right now for all the other things that are going on. And that actually plays into the fatigue, or into the physical and the mental. The other thing that it does is because I'm fasting in the space that I'm at, I have endorphins that are pumping right now, right, for lots of different reasons. And those endorphins help me to maintain the other things that I see, or other things that I'm going through right now in terms of physical, mental, and even the fasting itself. So I also want to do a check-in to go through that process, because it's a very important process for us to walk through. Otherwise, we kind of miss it, right? And we don't want to miss that. And one of the things that I want to make sure that I let you know is that fasting is a powerful tool. It is a powerful tool for the things that we're doing as we're walking through our metabolism, improving our metabolism, and getting that right of the things that we do. Fasting is one of the most profound and one of the most powerful. So the reason that we fast is because it hits the three pillars for reversing diabetes, and we'll talk about that here. Let's go ahead and let's hop into our discussion of fasting, and we'll get into it. So our fasting process is a very important one as we move through the metabolic space. Let's go ahead and let's set the backdrop. The reason that we're doing this is we want to improve our metabolism. Our metabolism is the process that the body goes through as it's converting food into energy. And if we have any malfunctions, any hiccups in that process, then we end up with the metabolic diseases that we've all talked about: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, obesity, and on and on and on. And so we've been walking through the path of the health action plan. That plan that is a blueprint, is a set of checklists, it's a set of guardrails, a set of protection that helps us say, if we follow this, if we go through this, if we walk this path, then the product, our body, our health, the product that we end up with is going to look like what the blueprint said it should look like. And so that is what we're doing. And one of the pillars in that blueprint, in the health action plan, is our fasting. And so the question that we always have is, if we're using a tool, we want to make sure we're using the tool properly. And so here, and that's where we are, because we're walking through fasting. So fasting, a review, what do we need to know? What do we need to know to be successful? And that is the important thing. Whenever I talk about fasting, I talk about it in three sections, if you will. How do we prepare for the fast? How do we fast successfully? And how do we break that fast? Preparing, getting through the fast, and breaking the fast. Why is that important? It's important because if we don't do a good job of getting through the fast, then we set ourselves up for difficulty, not just in this fast, but in other fasts down the road, because our body will remember, and it sets us back when it comes to our metabolic disease and our metabolic health. Because the longer we delay addressing it in whatever way, and let me say that, whatever way we address it, the longer we wait, the more damage and more complications we can have in the long term. And let me come and let's make a point here. As you're walking through the health action plan, remember, the health action plan gives you a list of it's a blueprint, it's a checklist, it's guardrails. It is something that comes from seeing countless numbers of patients and personally talking to clients and walking through the process myself. Let me pause there. If you've listened, if you've been following for any length of time, you've heard some of my story of my struggle of being 287 pounds as the guy, as the person, as the physician who was tasked with talking to people about metabolism, talking to them about their blood sugars and their diabetes and their weight and their high blood pressure and all those things that come along with metabolic disease and diabetes. That was me. That was my job. My job was to go out and talk to people about that, where I was struggling with it myself and had tried different things, let me try this plan and that plan and this eating and that eating. And it was not until implementing the pillars of the health action plan, implementing them together, that I finally was able to reach the success that you see. And the health action plan, so I had tried different ones. I've tried individually. I tried, and if you've not gone through the plan with us yet, go ahead and do that. Walk through that series. So I tried those, but it was not until that combination came on board and I installed that into my personal life that I began seeing successes. And I began understanding even some of the things that needs to happen and the deep-seated places where I was misaligned, where my rhythm was different from my action, right? The rhythm alignment. So my alignment was not in the direction of my rhythm. And I did not have structure, rhythm, alignment, structure, did not have structure that was taking me in the direction I needed to go. Let me pause there and make another point to you. Each of the components of the health action plan are tools. They are tools that work for your metabolism. Now, is fasting the end all and be all in everything? It is not. It is a tool. Is it an amazing tool? It is an amazing tool. Is it a tremendously important tool? It is a tremendously important tool. But can you do the things that we do differently? Sure. Just like I have done things before, they work. They weren't sustainable. They improved, but not to the level I needed. And so as I started to have difficulty in my personal life as it relates to my health, it was like, okay, we can't stay here. We can't keep doing this. And so putting that all together is the place that finally says, okay, this is how it works. And that's what we've been walking through. So taking fasting as one of the tools and implementing it and saying now, okay, how do we use this tool properly? It's kind of like having a screwdriver, right? Or a ratchet or something. If you're going to use it, if you're going to get the best benefit from it, you got to understand it, understand how it works, understand how to use it, when to apply it, where to apply it, what's the best practices. And that's what you find us doing right now. That's why it's important to understand fasting. And so we walk through fasting as a tool to say, what are the best practices that we need to do as we're walking through and trying to be successful. And so in the space, that is where you find us. And so let's go ahead and let's hop into it and let's talk about the first part, and that is how do we prepare for the fast? That is how to get ready. And as we get ready, there are a few things that I want to highlight. And notice that second line, right? Physical, mental, and emotional. Those are the same things that we did when we checked in. That is deliberate, because those are the places that people tend to have the most challenges as they get into fasting. Before we get there, though, I want you to get a point. How you prepare for the fast determines your ultimate success. How you prepare for the fast determines your ultimate success when it comes to fasting. If we do a good job of getting into the fast, and that's why I spend time checking in, we do the pop-up live, I show you what we eat as we are getting into the fast, what's my last meal for my eating window. That's where we talk about hydration, talk about preparing mentally, we talk about sleep, we talk about rest, we talk about, why do we talk about that? Is because how you come into the fast has a profound effect on how the fast goes, and ultimately a huge impact on how we are successful when we get out of the fast. So preparing for the fast is a determinant of your ultimate success in the fast. And so physically, mentally, and emotionally, these are some of the most important aspects of fasting. There are others that we can talk about that we've done in other shows, but I want to particularly talk about these three. And I said three, but actually two are going to be the ones that we spend most of the time with. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the third one, which is the emotional part of it. And we'll come back and talk about physical and mental in a minute. Emotional. Why is it important to prepare emotionally? Because fasting is not just about not eating. Fasting is not just about not eating. It is the deliberate, it is the voluntary abstention from food, from calories, to improve our metabolism. But when we fast, there are a lot of emotional things that are going on. There are hormones that are changing. There are situations that we find ourselves in that we normally use food to buffer or to deal with. When we're fasting, we no longer have that safety net. And if we're not careful, the emotional component can drive us to a place where we don't do well with our fasting. In fact, if you will recall, if you've been with us, you know that part of our the heat model, when we talked about the heat model says that there are some places, some things that will push us in the direction of eating that will derail us if we're not careful, right? With habits, emotions, access, and taste. So habits, emotions, access, and taste. That is the heat model. These are the food triggers. And these food triggers come, and you see that second one there, emotions. If your emotions are strong enough, those emotions will push you through or push through. They will break down. They will cause to not take effect the things that you've decided that you're going to do in the fast. In fact, today I was talking to someone in the office and going through this process because they were saying, hey, I am on a particular medication that's supposed to help me lose weight, but my weight is actually going up. And their comment was the medication is not working. And the answer, that is not the case. The medication is working. It is working. The question is, what are we doing, or what's going on in us that's pushing through the effect of the medication? And as we talked, we discovered stress, anxiety, poor sleep, boredom. And I'm telling you, if those emotions are strong enough, it will push through any plan that you have on fasting. So dealing with those and understanding that they're coming, understanding that you've got to put some things in place that help you move in the direction of being successful is very, very important. Okay? All right. So that's why it's important to prepare for the fast. That's one. So the emotional component. But I want to go back and now spend some time talking about the other two, the physical and the mental. And when we talk about physical, the place that I want to go there is I want to specifically talk about food. Rest and hydration, very important as well. But the food is important. Why is the food important? The food is important because of the graph that you see on the screen. Because when we eat, the body produces insulin to combat the things that we eat that cause blood sugar rises. And most of the time, when we're eating, most of the things that we eat have some carbs in them. Right? Nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but people who are on ketogenic diets, people who are on carnivore diets, people who are on some of the other diets that are low carbs, they don't eat a lot of carbs, but they're eating some carbs. And whenever carbs come out and they're being processed, we get a spike in blood sugar. When we get a spike in blood sugar, insulin has to come out to deal with that. And the moment insulin shows up, just like you see there on the screen, then our blood sugar goes up. And when blood sugar goes up, ketones drop to the bottom. And it's not until the blood sugars begin going down that we then see ketones go from in the normal range, which is below 0.5, and we see them going up into the therapeutic range, whether it's nutritional ketosis or therapeutic ketosis, right? That's 0.5 or higher. But as long as the blood sugars are up, where insulin is going to be there. Now, why do the blood sugars go up? Blood sugars go up because blood sugars go up because of the things we eat. And so when we look at that last meal and in our end of our eating window, getting into the fasting, we want to see blood sugars that are stable. We want to see blood sugars that are not running, causing big spikes. So that when we look at my graphs, when we look at the things that we're doing, and let me give you an example of one, right? So here was a fast that was starting. So we're eating in this eating window right here. So our eating window is ending right here, and we're going ahead and we're starting to eat our meal. And let's look at the blood sugars that occur following that meal. So right here, let's see, where are we? Okay, there we go. So 105, 102, 100 is where we started, right about there. And we ate the meal. And look at the blood sugars following that. So as we're getting into the fast, we want blood sugars that don't spike following that last meal, because if it spikes following that last meal, then our body has to deal with those blood sugars. And so these are the kind of blood sugars we want to see following a meal. Now, you may have fluctuations 120, 130, 140, anything up in that area, and those are we don't want those, but those are okay. But if we're having blood sugars that are spiking up into the 200s, 250, 180, 190, 160 even, then in order to deal with that, the body has to produce insulin, and that insulin derails the process. So number one, physically, we want to make sure that we are not eating in a way that causes us ultimate problems. Physically. Because what happens there is that it pushes the ketosis backwards. It delays our progression, delays our entry into ketosis, and that derails the whole process. They say, okay, we didn't have a successful fast because of what we did in preparation. And then mentally is important as well, because how we deal with our blood sugars, how we deal with our emotions, how we deal with our outlook, how we deal with what we think about the fasting, very important, because it's through those lenses that everything that comes to us affects us. Let me say that again. It is through the lenses that we have in terms of our mentation, our thought process, whether we have envisioned this success, whether we understand what's going on in our body, whether we understand what's going on in the fasting. That is important, because it's through that lens that everything will affect us. When we have challenges in fasting, it's our thought process that actually ultimately dictates what happens, how we respond, whether we break the fast, whether we continue the fast, whether we interrupt the fast, whether we eat something. It is the thought process, it's the mentation that ultimately determines that. So our goal is to prepare ourselves mentally. It is to say, well, what are the things that we need to put in place that will help us as we move through the fast? And we will actually come back and as we go through some of our episodes coming in the future, we'll go through the process of just maybe dealing with the mental process that we have to do. Maybe do a series where we talk about physically, talk about mentally, talk about emotionally, talk about social. Yeah, we'll come back and do something like that. But understanding that the lenses, right, our understanding of the lens, and understanding ourselves even, is important as we get into the fast. Understanding what emotions we have, understanding whether we have a mechanism for helping us deal with issues that will come up, and they will come up. We talked about the COPE model, right? COPE. So clarify, observe, pause, and execute. Those are important, because if we don't have a mechanism to deal with that, then it derails us and we don't have a successful fast. So what things are you putting in place now that will help you deal with even some of the emotional things that are going to come up? Right? Clarify, observe, pause, and execute. Very, very important in the fasting space. All right. And so that is, when we talk about fasting, preparing for the fast, that is one of the keys that we have to do as we're getting into the fasting space. Preparing physically, preparing mentally, and preparing emotionally. And as I mentioned, I talk about fasting in lots of different phases. There are three main ones, but let me give you some takeaways for preparation. What are some of the things that we need you to understand as we talk about fasting? And here they are. Here's your takeaways. Number one, understand that preparation is key. All right, it's not optional. Don't just jump into it without preparing. You've got to prepare. And we didn't talk about the social preparation or the environmental preparation. Those are important as well. So go back and watch our shows where we've kind of walked through all of those. Preparation is key. You want to prepare mentally. And the reason that one is particularly singled out among the three that we even talked about here on this episode is because that is the driving force behind everything else. it is where we probably have our most challenge. Because usually the fast is not a hunger issue. It is, okay, what's going on with me mentally? And the mental is being impacted by the emotional. We want to make sure we get good rest, because if we get good rest, then we're more resilient and we're better able to deal with some of the things that may come up. You want to eat nutrient-dense foods, not calorie-dense. We want nutrient-dense foods that have the right combination of proteins and fat and minerals and vitamins and all those things. We want to make sure that we're hydrated as well, and we want to make sure that we are in community. Community is important. It is a superpower, having a community around you that supports what you're doing in terms of the fast. Okay? And so just like we talked about preparing for the fast, let's talk now about what goes on in the fast and how we get through that fast successfully. When I talk about this, I actually usually talk about it in three different ways. We talk about the first 24 hours, the second 24 hours, the third 24 hours. And the reason that it's 72 hours is because I do a 72-hour fast once a week. I have encouraged everyone to at least begin doing a 24-hour fast. So wherever you are, you want to move in the direction of being able to do a 24-hour fast once a week. That is a starting point. So if you're 16 and 8, or you're doing one of the other intermittent fasting regimens, you are getting benefit, but let's push our way to see if we can get to a 24. The people who should not fast are those people who have some compelling medical reason why they can't fast. And you want to make sure that you're talking and discussing this with your healthcare provider. Further looking at the fasting, though, in the first 24 hours, I want to break it up a little finer. And we're going to talk about the first 6 hours. We'll talk about 6-hour blocks. The first one is what's called the postprandial period. Notice that this is not called the initial fasting. I want you to get that. The postprandial period is not a fasting process. It is what your body's doing as it's shuffling the food that you ate. Right? You ate the food, it comes in, and now the body is processing it, it's breaking it down, it's sending it to the different places that it needs to go in your body. It is not necessarily a fasting phase. The blood sugars are high. Insulin is high because it's dealing with all those blood sugars. The body is sending it to different places. The digestive system is absorbing the material that you just ate. Energy levels are high because there's a lot of sugar there. And your body is using some glucose for energy and is storing the excess. Good point to make here, because this goes back directly to what we just talked about in the preparation. The things that you eat have direct impact on what's happening in the fast. So this phase can be prolonged depending on the food that you ate as your last meal coming into the fast. Because the longer the body has to process, the longer it delays getting into ketosis. And the longer it delays getting into ketosis, the less benefit you get in the fast. So if your body takes 24 hours to get rid of the glucose, the glycogen, then the process takes you out of ketosis, or not out of ketosis, you never get into ketosis, and you don't stay in ketosis long enough to get the bigger benefits. So understand that it's not that you don't get benefit, but if we are talking about getting large benefits or huge benefits, then we want to make sure that we get into ketosis, get into the fast, and not have the body messing around here in the postprandial phase. Okay? Postprandial phase. And then the next 6 hours is, we're talking about the early fasting stage. This is the 6 to 12 hour. And in the early fasting stage, the body now is going back and saying, okay, the stuff that I just stored, I'm going to take some of it out and I'm going to use it for my function, for running everything else in the body. Insulin levels are starting to drop. Glucagon levels are starting to go up, because remember, glucagon and insulin go in opposite directions. This process signals the liver to start releasing stored glucose. So sometimes people will say to me, well, I haven't eaten for 6 hours and my blood sugar is high. Or actually my blood sugar went up after I didn't eat for 6 hours. Well, what's going on is your body's used up the sugar that was running around in your blood, and now it's going to the stored sugar and saying, hey, come out and let me start using you. Gluconeogenesis, or glycogenolysis, is breaking down glycogen or glycogen into glucose is happening. This is happening in the liver. And this is helping to maintain blood glucose levels. So it's not until the glucose is gone, we've taken the stuff out of the liver, and that's used up, that then the body gets to say, okay, let's go to the fat cells and let's begin burning the fat cells. So this is the early fasting stage, which is that 6 to 12 hours. And then 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning to using fat. This is the exciting part of the fast for me. Because this is where the body is now saying, wait a minute, my blood sugars have gone down. And I'm starting to use up the stuff in the liver. I now have to start looking to see what am I going to use for energy. And it's now that we're starting to see some beta oxidation going, increased fatty acids are coming out, it's being released from the fat stores. The body is now saying, okay, I need to start making some energy. So it's taking non-carb sources like fat, triglycerides, and it's converting that now into sugar. That's why sometimes you'll see that blood sugar starts to go down and then it goes back up. Why? Because the body still has the ability to make sugar. Your energy may dip during this period. And this is where, if you're not well rested, you will feel that more profoundly because you're like, wait a minute. What just happened? Well, is the fact that the body is now transitioning from burning one energy source into burning another. Sometimes people become irritable, right? Hunger will start to go up here, right? Because that energy is dropping, and we feel that, particularly if we're not rested. We feel that. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm so hungry. Well, it's not true hunger, right? We're feeling it because the energy is dipping. But most of us have enough stores to last through this. And if we can push through this, then it resolves. So this is the 12 to 18 hour period, which is that transition that we have to using fat. And then from the 18 to 24 hour period, this is where, everything is becoming supercharged, right? So glycogen stores are almost gone. We got increased ketones that are happening. Autophagy is ramping up, right? It's already started, but it's now getting supercharged. Autophagy is the body's cleanup process. It's the process that the body goes through to recycle and to get damaged, broken, misshapen, unused parts of itself and sends it off to recycling and then brings it back in stronger, better form so that we can use that and the body becomes efficient. This is where we start to see, as we get into this next phase that we'll talk about, we start to see improvement in our inflammatory processes. Their inflammation is going down. We start to see that our immunity is starting to kick in and our immunity is improving. This is an amazing phase right here. In this is where mental clarity is beginning because we're getting beta hydroxybutyrate that's starting to come out. We've got the brain-derived natriuretic factor that's starting to come out. All of those things are like boosting our brain power. So here, people's like, man, I feel good and my thought process is so much better. 18 to 24 hours. And then we get into our 24 to 30 hour period. And we've become fat adapted. Significant increase in ketones are now going on because our body's used up the glycogen. And because we said that 24 to 36 hours is where that process goes, where the body has used up all of the glycogen. If you go into fasting, though, with significantly elevated blood sugar, this process takes longer. Getting to this point takes longer. That's why it's so important what we do there. So more fatty acid in this phase are converted into ketones. And you saw there the ketone levels go up, right? So we go from normal into nutritional ketosis and then to therapeutic ketosis as we fast longer and longer and longer. Energy levels are stabilizing because now we have a constant source Whereas blood sugar fluctuates because, you get it, you put it in, it goes to the liver. When the liver gets used up, that's it. You either go eat again, right? Most of us, we eat again because we feel that as a dip, and we go eat again, we replenish it. And the insulin comes out and insulin drops it. Glucagon comes out and it goes back to the liver and it grabs some more. And so there's always this fluctuation that's going. But when we're burning fat, most of us have enough fat, 100,000 calories left in fat. This is what the studies say. Most of us have a constant, purer, more stable energy source as we're burning fat. And so we don't feel those fluctuations in our energy levels as we did if we're not in ketosis. And so that's what's going on in the body. So understanding those changes is very important. Understanding when things are going to happen, how things are going to happen, and understanding what's happening here helps us as we are thinking about how we're going to prepare for the fast. And as I said, we talk about fasting in 3 different phases. How do we prepare for the fast? How do we get through the fast successfully? And then, of course, how we break the fast. And how we break the fast is ultimately and significantly important, because how we break the fast determines the successes that we retain from the fast. If we don't do a good job here, then we undo some of the things that we have done in the fast. So how do we break the fast? Well, here are some tips to get you started. Number 1, monitor blood sugars. Now, I say monitor blood sugars, but really we should monitor lots of things. How we feel. If you have a ketone meter, go ahead and monitor that as well. Because what we want to know, why are we monitoring? We want to know what things are doing to our body. We want to know what foods, what sleep, what rest, what stress, what activities, what is it doing in my body? Because that helps me to determine what I can do to mitigate some spikes in blood sugar. How do I maintain, if you will, a stable blood sugar following breaking the fast? Because if we're not careful, we jump into eating again without thinking through the process and without understanding what certain foods do to our body, and we're eating those foods, and then we're like, okay, why am I not getting the benefits that I thought I was going to get? And it's because we're not doing a good job in the space of ending the fast. And we're not ending the fast well because we don't understand what's going on in our body. I wear 2 glucose monitors. One I wear them because I want to show you what's going on between the different ones. But I wear one normally for myself because I want to know what's going on with my blood sugars. I check my ketones here on the show because I want you to see what's going on in my body, but I check ketones also because I want to know what's happening in my body as I'm moving through the metabolic space. So monitor, number 1. Number 2, as you start to eat, you want to have good portion control. Often it's not the fact that we ate the wrong thing, it is that we ate too much of the right thing. Let's pause there. So it's not that you ate the wrong thing, but you ate too much. We've gotten so used to portion sizes being humongous that when we are actually faced with eating, and I tell this story, I've gone to restaurants where I've been upset with how much they gave me because I was expecting more. I'm like, if I'm paying for this, I want more than this. But we've gotten used to the portion sizes being so large that when we're faced with a normal portion size, we're like, what the heck is this? Right, so controlling portions is very important. Number 3, we want to eat slowly. If you get in there and you just start shoveling food in, guess what? Yeah, you don't realize how much you're eating. And it takes 20 minutes for the signal to get from your stomach to your brain that you're full. So if you're not careful, you're eating, and that derails because you end up eating a lot more than you should, number 1, because the signal doesn't get there because you've eaten faster than you need to. And then you want to avoid sugary processed foods. This is key. This is clutch right here. So the same thing that happened when we ended our eating window in terms of our body processing And when we process, if there's a lot of sugar, then the blood sugar goes up, insulin goes up. The same thing happens here. If we eat something that's highly processed, highly sugary, then the sugar is going to go up, the blood sugar is going to spike, insulin is going to come out. When insulin comes out, insulin has the potential in that moment to derail and undo a lot of things that we did and the benefits that we got in the fast. So people say, oh, my fasted and my weight went up a lot after my fast. Oh, I fasted and I'm really, really hungry after the fast. It's like I couldn't get enough food. Well, it's because the thing that you ate the first when you ended the fast set the cascade in place. And so things are just now going, and we say, well, I don't have control. Well, it's not that you don't have control, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be hard to control when those hormones are raging. Because the hormones are pushing you in that direction. One of the conversations I often have with family members of people who are diabetic, who are on insulin, they'll say, man, she just eats all the time, or he just eats all the time. It's like he can't, he eats too much. Well, the insulin that they're taking makes them eat. Yeah. So that's kind of like me having, opening your mouth and pouring food into it. The hormones have a huge impact on our fasting and our eating. So it's not that they just like to eat, it's that the hormones are making them eat. And that's sometimes hard for people to understand. So when we're fasting, we want to make sure that we are following balanced bites. The balanced bite idea, let me pull that up. So balanced bites, when we talk about balanced bite, we're talking about whole foods, minimized processing, no added sugar, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, lean protein and healthy fats, portion control that we talked about, tasty and flavorful. Now, when I end my fast, that's starchy and non-starchy, I lean more towards the non-starchy for that meal. Because I know that any spike that I have in blood sugar can derail me downstream. So when you're thinking about what you're going to eat, and one of the things that I've asked you to do, or asked people in the community to do, is to come up with what their default meal is. That is the meal, if things go crazy, if you're out somewhere where you don't know what you're going to do, if there's no food around, you didn't bring your food with you, what is that meal that you can say, okay, this is what my meal is, let me get this and this, put it together, and I've got my meal. And that really is the balanced bites idea, that you are not just eating a certain way for this time, but I'm thinking about food in a certain way all the time. That's why balanced bites is important, because it's not just okay, I'm doing this right now. It is, okay, I'm doing this. This is just how I think about food. This is how my food goes. And so some important tips that I want to give you here, some considerations. Number one, you want to, when you're breaking the fast, you want to make sure that you are doing things that are consistent with where we say we want to go, right? So what does that look like? When you break the fast, choose foods that help you maintain stable blood sugar levels. But at the same time, they give you a lot of nutritional value. You also want to eat foods that are gentle on the stomach, on the digestive system, because your cells in your body, particularly if you're doing one of the longer fasts, they are quiescent, they are sleeping, and they wake up, and you can have other things downstream if you're not careful. You want to focus on low glycemic index foods, that's index less 50 or less, lean protein, healthy fats, and you want to make sure you're hydrated. That lean protein, healthy fats, what does that sound like? With low glycemic index, that sounds like balanced bites. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you are doing that and that you are in line with all the things that we say that we want in terms of our fasting. So when I talk about fasting, once again, how do we prepare for the fast? How do we get through the fast? And how do we break the fast are ultimately important in our space, because that is what sets us up for success. Fasting is a tool. You want to make sure that you understand how to use that tool and get the maximum benefit from it. When I talk about fasting, when I talk here on the channel, everything that we do is based on our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, with the blogs, with the podcast. We encourage or we empower with the tools that we're using, fasting being one of them. The Limitless Living Health Action Plan, 100-day walk to consistency in health, strength, strategy, and mindset, the HEAT model, the COPE model. All of those things are tools that allows you to get the best benefit for the things that we're learning. And then we encourage with the community. The Health Action Plan deliberately has the word action in it, because just getting it, just hearing it, just watching it, that doesn't do anything. You've got to infuse the power into the things that we learn with your behavior. And so I encourage you, get involved. Get involved. There's so many things that are going on the channel you can plug in. And the goal for all of that is to help you plug in so that you have the benefit that you need. So when you show up, tell us what's going on. Tell us the successes you're having. Invite people around you in your community so that they too can get benefit. And then join the space. We are here on Mondays for our flagship show, Dwain Woode MD Live. We do our fasting check-ins on pop-ups. We do our strength, strategy, and mindset in the morning. The 100-day walk to consistency is still going on. We do our review of fasting here at the end of the week as we walk through, as we just did. So many places where you can connect. Join us, Dwain Woode MD Live, on Monday, and that sets the tone for the week. When you come to the show, you see what we're doing, what are we talking about this week, and how are the things that we normally do plugging into that discussion. So if people say, well, where should I come? Where should I start? Start with the show. Every Monday, 7 p.m. Central, we're there, and we set the tone for the rest of the week. Hey, I'm glad that I'm here with you. Glad that we're walking through this process together. Join us as we move through the rest of this week. We've got our video from the vault coming up 9 p.m. Central on Saturday. We've got This Week in Review, 6 a.m. Central on right here on the show, right here on YouTube. And we've got Dwain Woode MD Live coming up Monday, 7 p.m. Central every week in this space. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're showing up with our best self, our best health, and our best plans for our lives, and we are going to be successful. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you at the next episode. Good night, everybody.